think we're live on Facebook.
Yep, I just got the pop-up
Awesome.
notification that said we're live. So
Cool. Yeah, it
awesome.
took a while, but we're finally there. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi, team. Hi, people here at Zoom, people at the Facebook groups. Uh, this is the fifth edition of the WP Ultimo Community webinar. This time, it's a conversation. We brought Matthew Rodela, which it's pretty much one of the first people that I saw talk about the WAS concept, the turnkey website concept, after I started WP Ultimo, and it was I'm pretty sure it was the first person to mention WP Ultimo in 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 a place that I felt was like huge at the time, which was a post on WP Elevation.
Mm.
Uh, it was really incredible to see the plugin there. I don't think we had chat or met each other by the time you mentioned WP Ultimo on that post. So it was definitely interesting to see someone mention the product uh, on WP Elevation. But yeah, Matthew, I'm pretty sure that most of the people at the group know who you are already. But if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a bit more about you and
Yeah,
what you do.
sure. My name's Matthew Rodela. As you said, I started my own turnkey website platform on WordPress multi-site about 4 years ago now, and before that, I was a web developer, a web consultant. I was building websites for people on WordPress for a living, and I had transitioned into that from being in the IT world. I started in corporate America with a job in IT, and then I started doing IT consulting on my own freelance. And then I slowly transitioned to website development and specifically WordPress. Um, and I know, and that's kind of a common story with people who are in the WordPress world is they don't really start out there. They just end up there.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings them in and draws them in. And so that was something similar to me. And so what I did with my platform, with my turnkey platform, was I kind of melded the two worlds of IT business owning and WordPress website development. I had a podcast that was targeted to IT business owners and talking about how to start your own IT business and stuff like that. And so I had an audience, and they, you know, kept complaining about the crappy websites, and they had problems getting their websites up and running. But they're IT guys, so they like to tinker and they like to build stuff on their own. So I thought it would be perfect if I could build kind of like a Squarespace or a Wix for IT business owners. And so I spent about a year researching and building and failing and frustratingly trying to cobble together a bunch of different plugins and custom code to get, you know, a turnkey WAS platform built. And I didn't know that's what it was at the time. And so I built it, and you know, had some headaches at first. I switched, you know, between a couple different membership plugins, a couple different payment gateways. And, you know, I was struggling and making mistakes. And finally I got it to a place where I really, you know, it was stable. I was generating a good recurring revenue with it. And so that's when I started talking to other web developers about it. And they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. How did you build it? And I would start to say, you know, well, I have WordPress multi-site, and then I have these plugins, and you have to make, you know, but there's this domain mapping thing you got to worry about. And then I realized, you know, hey, you know, this might be a cool thing to put together in a course because there's just so much to it. You also have to think about like the niche that you go into, and there's some things you have to think about before you launch it to begin with. And so that's when I decided to launch the Turnkey Websites Blueprint, and you know, wrote a bunch of blog posts, and then eventually released the course. And then it was right around that time I also found out about WP Ultimo, it's one of those things I wish would have been around, or at least I wish I would have heard about it when I started building my WAS, because it would have made my life so much easier. But when I found out about it, I was super excited about it. And so that's about the time that, I did the WP elevation post and mentioned WP Ultimo, and the rest is history.
So is your turnkey platform still running?
Yeah.
For how long now?
Yeah. So it's been about 4 or 5 years. I think I launched it in 2015, sometime around the middle of 2015. And yeah, it's been running this whole time. And I'm actually working on rebuilding it right now, using WP Ultimo, because up until now I was using Restrict Content Pro for the membership and site creation portion of it. And it does the job, but it certainly doesn't have the features that WP Ultimo does, with different plans and and different access levels depending on what plan you're on, and all that stuff. So I'm in the process of rebuilding my platform on using WP Ultimo and a bunch of other things that I've come to discover now that I've been running the course and talking with other people who are building their platforms. So I'm looking forward to that, because it's running well, but it's definitely could be a lot better. And so I'm excited to see how it goes once I rebuild it with all of these cool new tools that are out there.
Cool. Um, you mentioned something I found really interesting. You had, because like we talk a lot about WP Ultimo and what plugins to use, and people have this great idea of this wonderful platform that they want to build, and they have all the tools in place, and but with all the successful networks that I've seen so far, it usually starts the other way around. So it's someone that has an audience more or less in place already. They have a specific niche where they know the people, they know how that niche works, and then they come up with the tools to create a platform like that. So is that something that you would say is the most important thing when creating a platform like this, a WAS platform? You should care about building an audience first and try to create the product later, or the other way around is also something that might work?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to have more success with your WAS if you have an audience to sell it to first, right? I mean, that should be obvious, but I think a lot of people think that once they build it, then the audience is just going to magically appear and start buying it. But like with most, with most businesses, especially product-based businesses, especially product-based businesses that are focused on a niche, um, you have to build the audience. And so yeah, the people who have most success with it the quickest are the ones that already have the audience. Otherwise, you build the platform, but you still need to put in the work and the time to build an audience. And that takes a long time. It takes a while to build an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you, and then will end up buying something that you put out in the world. So that definitely helps. I wouldn't say it's required. I do know of some people who build their WAS and then go out to try to find customers for it. And they're able to find customers for it through advertising, but they have to put a lot of money into upfront to do the advertising. And then it's still a slow growth. Whereas if you already have an audience ready to buy something from you, and then you release this platform, you're going to have a lot more people jumping on board right away.
Yeah, I saw an interesting post that you put on Facebook, I think, a couple of days ago, uh, talking about how you saw a increase in sales. I'm not sure if that was for all of your products or for specifically the WAS platform, but with the whole pandemic going on in the entire world, and a lot of different niches that might not have paid a lot of attention to having a website or doing business online. What do you think? Uh, are there new opportunities in terms of niches that can be pursued now with the whole change in perspective that the pandemic has caused?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's, you know, I was curious to see what would happen in our industry as a whole because of this. You know, there's two sides to it, right? There's the side of it where a lot of certain types of businesses are basically completely shut down and can't do anything. And so those businesses don't have any money coming in to invest in things like marketing. But then there's a completely other side of it where there are certain businesses that are booming, like, you know, online education, like online meeting platforms like this one. Um, and and so those businesses are booming. So depending on which side of that your business is focused on, you could either be doing really well or doing really poorly right now. But I think the overall takeaway for our industry is that people are realizing now more than ever how important a web presence is for their business. So whether they have a restaurant or a hair salon that got shut down, or, you know, whatever, they realize that basically the only place people now can go to find out about what's going on with your business, or, you know, are there ways to order from the business and stuff like that, is through their website. And so these businesses that have been putting off their website, or have, you know, been saying, it's not that important, it's just another thing that I don't need to spend money on, they're realizing how important it is now and how vital it is to the success of their business. So I think that aspect of our industry is very strong now. And if you can find a way to position yourself as the person who can give them a reliable, easy to use website platform, and make it affordable, so that, you know, they if their business is down and they're kind of suffering right now, they can still, at least it'll be like a utility to them, right? They have to keep the lights on, they have to keep their website going. And so I think turnkey websites and WASs are perfect business model for that, because you're able to, you know, automate the website building process, so you can make it very affordable for your customers to come on board to your platform. And then you can give them all the tools they need to communicate with their customers, whether it's, you know, like a little notification bar at the top or a pop-up window or something. And you can roll that into your WAS and it's available to all your customers right away. I think it's a great business model, and I've seen that reflected in my own sales. So that post I put on Facebook was specifically for my WAS, the WAS part of my business, which is called Tech Site Builder. That part of my business saw a 50% increase in sales in April last month. And you know, I can only attribute that because that's been the largest monthly increase in sales that I've seen basically since I launched it. And I can only attribute that to, you know, what's going on, and people either finding more time to work on their website, or you know, wanting to find a cheaper, more affordable solution for their website. But it's definitely, you know, shown me that it's one of the, you know, one of the few sectors now that's growing for me, as opposed to, you know, either the rest of my businesses or the rest of my, you know, other projects are either flat or going down a little bit. That's the only one that's really got a big uptick.
Did you anticipate that at all when the business is starting to shut down, to close the doors? Did you thought that you might see an increase in sales on your WAS business?
You know, I don't know about you, but this whole thing has been a roller coaster of emotions. And so there were days where I was hopeful, and I was like, yeah, I think, like, especially when it first was starting, like nobody knew anything what was going to happen. So part of me was trying to like build myself up, saying, yeah, but people are going to really like this and they're going to really want it. And then there was another side of me saying, because my niche is IT business owners, was like, you know, a big part of their business is going to people's homes, going to people's businesses, fixing computers. And a lot of them have storefronts and shops that are going to have to shut down and stuff. And so I'm like, well, those guys are the first thing they're going to want to cut is marketing and websites. So I kind of went back and forth. Part of me thought it was going to do well. Part of me thought it was going to bust based on my niche. And so it was really something I just kind of had to wait and see. I did some proactive things. I sent them emails saying, hey, we're still here for you. We can, help you communicate with your customers by putting stuff on your website to communicate with them. We can help you implement e-commerce, stuff like that. And that may or may not have helped. I'm not entirely sure, actually. But at the end of the day, we saw an increase in sales. So that was a good thing.
Yeah. When this whole thing started, I kind of I started to panic a little bit. I thought
Yeah.
we would see a huge decrease in sales, but like you, we actually saw an increase in sales as well. So when this whole thing started, I basically took a week off to analyze costs and basically cut everything that wasn't like absolutely essential to running the
Right.
business.
That's smart.
And it was a bit premature actually,
Yeah.
but it's something interesting. Maybe if I'm not sure if there are people watching on Facebook or here in Zoom that have uh, WASs running in the wild. If they would share, if they also saw an increase, is something that I would be interested in knowing, because, as you said, basically there are different WASs like trying to cover different niches, and I would say that different niches are responding differently to the crisis. So maybe it works. It helped a little bit for a couple of niches, but it's not working so well for other ones. And as we discussed uh, at the beginning of the conversation, I would probably say that people that have their platform launched already and have an audience were probably the ones that benefited the most from this whole paradigm shift, because a lot of customers that were not so sure about like maybe going ahead and hiring a WAS platform, now they're basically seeing that they have no option, and they go with the ones that they already know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It helps that they have heard of you somehow already
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. So yeah, and sometimes even if you don't have an audience, at least, starting a WAS in an industry or a niche where you're familiar and you might have, a few contacts, you can even, see if you can make friends with or network or find, a couple influencers in that niche, so that you don't necessarily need to be the one to build an audience. You go to the people who have built an audience and you say, hey, I have this WAS platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's, super affordable. It's built specifically for your guys' niche. Why don't we, get some kind of, affiliate relationship or something, and you can send folks over to my platform. That's another way to approach it. And that's perfect for people who, maybe don't like marketing. They like building the platform and running it and everything, but they don't necessarily like or have the skills to go out and build an audience themselves. That's one way to do it. Find someone who already has it and partner with them.
Yeah. So you said that you're running the WAS portion of your business for 4 years now. Is that right?
Yep.
And you have to struggle a lot to get that up and running, but thankfully you've compiled those learnings and the lessons you've learned into a course, and you are offering a new, because this is not something that you have like running all year long. You do your course in batches. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I do like a launch model for the course, where we open the doors, we launch it for a couple of weeks, bring in some students, and then close the doors. And I do that because I like to have the students all going through it together, and then I have coaching calls that are timed with each module as it releases. So the first week module 1 releases, and then we have a coaching call for module 1 at the end of that week. And then the second week module 2 releases, we have a coaching call for that. Because people do, have questions about, how to apply certain things for their niche. And it helps that everybody's going through it at the same time, so they can all kind of have everything fresh in their mind. So I like that approach. And so, yeah, we just basically once a quarter is kind of how it's been worked out. Every 3 months, I open the doors for a couple of weeks, bring in, a bunch of students, and then we all go through the course together.
And what's the structure there for the course? How long does it take? Are there different sections that you cover along the way?
Yep. So it's 6 weeks. So there's 6 modules in the course, and let's see, I got the module list here. So the first module I call laying the foundation, and that's where before we build anything, we talk about choosing a niche. We talk about building an audience. We talk about pre-selling, which is something that I think sets my course apart from a lot of other courses out there that teach you how to build a business. But you have to invest all this stuff before you start earning money from it. Where and the WAS is no different, right? You have to buy plugins, you have to buy hosting, and typically you have to buy like the developer version of the plugins so that you can have unlimited, users and websites and stuff with it. And so it starts to add up. So that's why I put in a lesson in the first module about pre-selling, so you can, figure out the basics of what you're going to deliver and then start to sell it and take money from it. And you can, offer maybe a lifetime deal or a super discounted version of what it's going to be at the end. But I recommend people try to pre-sell it to just a small group of passionate people who can help you build it and help, give feedback and stuff. And in exchange for that, they get a reduced rate on it. I did that with my WAS when I launched it, and it helped a lot.
Yeah, we did that with WP Ultimo, and it also helps create this sense of it's twofold actually. First, there's a sense of validity because people are willing to pay money for something that is not like 100% there yet. So that helps you understand that there is some value to the platform you're building.
Right.
And in second place, it like people paid you money, so now you have to deliver.
Exactly.
So there's a sense of responsibility in there.
Yes, and that's something I need, because I am a huge procrastinator, and I will put things off unless there's really something like forcing me to get it done. And that's what pre-selling does, is when people pay money for it, you have a lot of pressure to get it done. Or not pressure, motivation. That's a better word. You have
Motivation, yeah.
motivation to get it done. So that's what we cover in the first module. So there's a lot going on in that one. And then in the second module, it's called Build the Framework. And that's where we talk about, where to find hosting, what are some of the basic plugins that you'll need to just keep the site operational. And so that's where we cover a lot of the technical foundations of building a turnkey WAS, backing up, security, that kind of stuff. In the third module, that's called Interior and Exterior Design. So we're kind of taking like building a house as a metaphor when we name these modules. The third module is called Interior and Exterior Design. So once we have the framework of the house built, then we get to, put up the nice paint and the tiles and the shingles on the roof and make it look pretty. So this is where we talk about not only the front end theme that you're going to implement and some things to keep in mind when you're choosing a theme, but also the back end quote unquote theme and how to like customize the WordPress dashboard and why it's important to do that. And so that's what we cover in module 3. Module 4 is called Open House. So that's basically the customer onboarding process of the turnkey system. And that's where WP Ultimo comes in. And that's where we talk about how WP Ultimo helps bring the customer in, they pay, they go through the onboarding wizard, they get a site at the end, and it makes the whole sign-up process very smooth. And that's also where we talk about things like onboarding, an email sequence you could send to your customers. We talk about tutorial videos that you could provide to your customers. So lots of different ways to make the onboarding as smooth as possible for your customers. And then the fifth module is called For Sale. And so that's where we talk about actually selling your WAS. So we talk about like the landing page. We also cover things like the terms of service agreement. And there's some things to think about when you're coming up with your terms of service. Because people who are used to building websites for people are used to having them like sign a contract or an agreement. And instead, we're treating it like a plugin or a SaaS where the user just agrees to some terms before they sign up. We talk about that. And then the last module is called maintenance. And that's where we talk about, once everything's built, you got some customers on there. How do you keep things running smoothly? How do you track your metrics? So we get into like things like MRR and ARR and churn, and talk about how those things, reflect the health of your platform and how to make those things healthier. And then of course, support, how to give good support, because that's a big part of the WAS once it's built. Is just giving ongoing support and making it so that you're not answering questions all the time. You have a good knowledge base, you have a good support system and stuff like that. So that's the full course. I mean, we go through everything from finding your idea and your niche to building out the technology, to launching it, to maintaining it. We tried to make this a really soup tin. That's everything I learned when I, planned, built, and launched and maintained my own WAS is covered in the course.
Yeah, awesome. From your experience running this courses for the past couple of years, where would you say your students like get stuck the most? It's on the planning part, on the tech side of things. Where is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of, there's a handful of students that always get stuck at the planning stage, and some of them never make it past the planning stage, unfortunately. I think there's just those types of people who just have analysis paralysis. They can't decide. They have a couple different niches, and we try to make that as easy as possible in the course. We have a niche worksheet that, like, say you have 5 different ideas for a niche you want to go through. You fill out the worksheet for each of those niches, and at the end you have a score. And basically, whichever one scores the highest is what we recommend you go with. So that kind of helps you narrow it down. So some people get stuck there, but we try to make it as easy as possible to get through that part of it. And then the next place they get stuck is when they're building the website itself. So like the theme, and they're customizing the theme and then making the interactive parts of it where, there's so many different approaches you can take. You can, give the user just complete access to like a page builder, and then they can, and then you give them a starting design, and then they can go in and mess around with things if you want. Or the other end of the spectrum is you can lock it down completely and then give them access to like a form on the back end, like with advanced custom fields or something. So they fill out, some information that gets populated on the front end, but they have no control over changing the look of the front end, maybe swapping out some colors or their logo. But other than that, it's pretty locked down. And then there's a bunch of in between. So it's really, finding where they want to fit in that, how much control they give their customer, and then building that out. This takes a lot of time because you're building a website, from scratch, but you're also building some extra components into it. And so a lot of people, they don't really get stuck there. That just takes them the longest to build that out and to flesh it out. And we recommend also putting like starter content in the website. So having it filled out with like kind of generic content for your industry niche, so that if someone signs up for your platform and they don't have time to write content, they have at least something there. It's not going to be good for SEO. It's going to be, and it's going to be very generic, but at least they feel like they have a complete website that then they can go in and swap out the content when they have time. So that's the second biggest place I think where people get stuck.
Yeah. Doing the WP Ultimo support, we get to see a lot of networks that people are building. And the thing about WordPress is that there are so many plugins available, and you can basically do anything you can think of. And I think that people get a little carried away with the possibilities. So they try to create this all-in-one platform with all the options, all the bells and whistles, and they end up with a WordPress installation with like 100 different plugins, each one with a different design language, admin pages all over the place. Is that something that you see happen with your students as well?
Yes, and that's something I found out, after running the course a little while, that A lot of people were like, oh, so what about e-commerce? Oh, so what about a CRM? Oh, so what about a funnel, system? And they're just throwing all this stuff in there. Um, and the approach I take with Tech Site Builder, my WAS, is to make it bare bones simple. And if someone wants to add e-commerce, if someone wants to add a marketing funnel, they can use a third-party service like ClickFunnels or whatever to do that. And we'll help them implement it. We'll make it easy for them to implement it into their existing site. But we're just giving them the basics that they need to build a successful, site for their business. And that's helps me keep my sanity, first of all, because I don't have a big team to support this. So I need, first and foremost, always in my mind when I launch my WAS with support. I want to have stellar support, because these guys are building websites and they're getting frustrated and they don't know where to turn to, and there's nobody helping them. So I want to make it super simple for them, give them super awesome support. And the only way I can do that is if I don't throw in everything in the kitchen sink in the platform. So, once I've been running the course, people were trying to add all this stuff. So after you're done with the course, we have kind of like a membership program that you can go into called Key Masters Club, where we have, monthly webinars and continue education and coaching calls and stuff. And in one of the coaching calls, the entire coaching call was basically around me kind of, saying to everybody, like, stop overcomplicating things, take a simple approach, think minimum viable product when you're launching your WAS, and only launch with the bare minimum that you need. And later on, if you want to, you can add extra stuff, but you probably won't want to. You'll probably find that just having the bare minimum is enough to keep people happy and to, and to be able to give them the support they need. But then you could sprinkle in a couple extra things here and there. And then some of the more complicated things you can always throw in as add-ons, where you can charge extra for more personalized custom work. And that's kind of the approach I take. And I see that seems to be the best approach for others as well.
So just as a out of curiosity, how different are the sites inside your particular WAS? Because you said that you do offer the option of some expansions and integrations here and there. The average site is like really similar to all the others, or do you have some variation between your customers?
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of minimum viable product. So when I launched, and still to this day, pretty much, Tech Site Builder is still pretty much a minimum viable product if you think about it. And so I decided to launch with only one theme, not giving people a bunch of themes to choose from. I made it a pretty, bare bones, open theme so that people could change it up if they wanted to. And then I could offer extra services to, like, oh, I'll change your homepage, or I'll, redesign your site for an extra fee. And that seems to, and people seem to like it. They like the theme because it's the theme that I think that type of business needs. So it's got, contact info where it should be. It's got the right info where it needs to be and nothing extra. And so if you give people different choices of themes, then you're basically saying, like, oh, there's not one right way to build this kind of website. I'm just kind of giving you a bunch of pretty options. Where I wanted to say, we have the one most effective way to build this website. Here it is. And then you can customize it with your own information. So that's the approach I took. And that seems to have worked well. However, now that I've been running it for a little while, I do on occasion have people coming to me saying, I'd like my website to look like this, or I wish it didn't look like everyone else who was on the platform. That's rare, but I do get people who say that. So in the next version of Tech Site Builder, we are going to offer a couple different themes, but the themes are going to be specifically focused on different sectors of IT. So we'll have like one theme that's focused on solo technology consultants, one that's focused on computer repair shops, like brick and mortar shops, and another one that's focused on like business IT services. And I think, you have kind of different needs there. And those are the types of customers that have been coming to us wanting different customizations. But right now, if someone wants customization, we have what's called the concierge service, where they can order a site, basically a site build concierge. And, just for a few $100, we'll give them like a new, fresh looking homepage, And we have a few Beaver Builder templates that we just load in and customize. So it's not that much work
Hmm.
from our end, but they like the fresh look. And that's something that we do to kind of keep things, interesting and fresh for our customers.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought an interesting point. That's again a point where I think that really knowing or have at least some basic knowledge about the niche you're trying to build a platform for helps, because if you know exactly what the people in that group need in a website, it's really simple to make those decisions. You know that some I would say the most of the customers that end up signing up for a WAS, they don't have a lot of options. They don't want a lot of options. They want to have a website that looks good with the lowest amount of work possible. So
Right.
if you can give them the 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 solution that works out of the box without like having the customer do a lot of the work to get the site to look in a particular way, uh, I think it's the desirable approach here.
Yeah, and the way I think about it is the website is the gateway into your other higher end marketing services. So you can give them a very simple, elegant, clean, easy to use, easy to build site, and they don't have to do a lot of work. And then they're happy with it, and then they come back to you and they're like, oh, I hear SEO is really important. What do I need to do for SEO? And then we reply, well, it helps to have regular content, optimized content. We can help you with that. So we have content optimization services. We have blog writing services. And then, higher up on the chain, they want marketing services. So, we can talk about higher end marketing services like funnels and PPC and Facebook ads and stuff like that. And so the website is the gateway into your world of other services, but you don't want to put all those services in the initial website. Otherwise, like you said, they're going to get overwhelmed. It's either going to be, not affordable for them. They're going to get scared off, or they're going to be confused, especially if you put it all in as a DIY thing and you expect the customer to, implement e-commerce, build out their funnels, implement their SEO campaigns and stuff. And most average business owners don't want to mess with that. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about just giving them the basic bare essentials, and then you can take care of the rest in add-ons and upsells and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. So your the was part of your business is just part of your business. You recently started to develop a couple of plugins that are focused around the concept of website as a service as well. Uh, I know about the UI manager and the DNS manager. Can you tell us a little bit more about those products?
Yeah, sure. So, in the process of running a WAS and then teaching about building a WAS, we found that there are still certain tools that are missing from the tool set of that would make things ideal for you as a WAS builder. And so as I was, starting to teach the course and starting to build the awareness of the WAS concept, a developer by the name of Asier Moreno, who was in the group, was talking about, his idea to build a plugin that would kind of fill a lot of these gaps with, especially with the dashboard of WordPress. The dashboard of WordPress is nice for us who are used to WordPress, but for the average person who's never used it before, it can be confusing and not intuitive. So we wanted to have some tools to make the WordPress dashboard a lot more intuitive for our customers. And Asier had an idea, kind of a proposal for a plugin he could build, and he started pre-selling it and talking about some of the features it would have. And so I thought that would fit perfectly with the course and the things I was trying to teach, and enabling my students to be able to do things a lot more easier. So I decided to partner with him on a new business venture called KeyPress, where basically I would do the training and he would do the developing for the plugins. And that's what we've been doing. And so our first two plugins that are out right now, one is called UI Manager. And the goal, the ultimate goal of UI Manager is to be one plugin that'll allow you to completely customize the WordPress dashboard. And we're taking that in phases. So the first phase is to make it the best plugin and the easiest plugin to use to edit the different menus in WordPress. So we're talking the admin menu on the left, the toolbar menu on the top, and the customizer menu, which is one not a lot of people think about, but that's one that if you want your users to use it, there's a lot of options there that could be confusing and that you might want to hide or rename and stuff. So we make it easy to hide, rename, add new icons, rearrange, all of those different menus. And then the biggest thing for us was to make it so that you could be granular with these different options. So if you want, people on certain WP Ultimo plans to have one menu configuration, and then on another plan to have access to maybe, some higher level plugins or have different menu configuration, you can do that with our plugin, and you can be granular to, depending on the theme or the user or the role or the WP Ultimo plan, you can give them different menu configurations. So that's how it is now. And then we're continually developing it. We've got in the works plans to, be able to edit the dashboard, to be able to edit each of the WordPress admin screens. So like if you go into like Gutenberg, for example, and you want to give your customers the Gutenberg experience without the confusion of all the different options, you can hide certain pieces of it and rename certain parts of it to make it more intuitive to your niche. We want to do that for all of the basic WordPress dashboard screens, so you can customize everything. That's kind of next in the roadmap. And then finally, our final kind of phase of that one is to give you the ability to skin or theme the dashboard with different styles, and make it so that you can customize it to however you want, as if it were a front-facing theme, but it's the back end. So kind of like, I don't want to say page builder, but that kind of level of granular, being able to change the dashboard with different colors and branding and stuff. So that's the UI Manager. And then the other plugin we have is DNS Manager, and this solves a specific problem that I faced when I was running my WAS, where I was on WP Engine as my host, and they decided, I had about 100 customers on my WAS, and then they decided to change servers on me. So that means my IP address changed, and that means I had to go to all of my customers and ask them to update their A record to change the IP address, from the old one to the new one. And you can imagine that was a huge pain, and it took a lot of time and a lot of back and forth. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could have control over everybody's DNS settings, so that if we do have a change of IP address, I can go in and change it myself. And for everybody, if I want to move hosts, or if my hosts change servers or something like that, I can just go in and update it for everybody, so they don't know anything changed, and then just go about my business. And so that was the genesis of the DNS Manager. And basically at its core, DNS Manager allows you to manage the DNS settings of all of the sites in your network inside the WordPress dashboard. And there's a lot of other uses for it besides what I talked about. It enables you to easily add, for example, if you wanted to add like tracking code or something like a verification, like the Google Webmaster Tools verification code that they use a DNS verification for, or certain email services or something like that, and you want to set that up for your customers, you don't have to ask them to get access to their DNS, which is a huge pain. You can just, have, all they need to do is when they first sign up with you, they point their name servers to your custom name server, and then their DNS settings are there, and you can help them manage it, or you can change it for them or whatever. So that's basically what the DNS Manager does in a nutshell.
Do you happen to know the list of the DNS providers that you support right now?
Let's see, off the top of my head, I believe it's, we just finished DNS Made Easy. We actually released that yesterday. So DNS Made Easy, Cloudflare, Google DNS, Cloud DNS, Amazon Route 53. I think those are the 5.
Wow, that's a lot of options.
Yeah, and looking back, we probably wouldn't have gone with that many options, but we started developing for Amazon Route 53 because that's what we were using. And then we realized not a lot of people were using Amazon Route 53. So we started pulling people, what is the DNS provider that you use? And of the people that responded, the answers were pretty all over the place. So people use a lot of different options. So we tried to cover as many of the most popular ones as we could, not realizing that each DNS provider has totally different way of connecting to their API. So we had to, every time we integrate a new DNS provider, we had to basically rewrite the plugin from scratch to allow for that connection to that DNS provider's API. So it's been a long, hard road, and we probably wouldn't have done it that way now, looking back. But since we didn't know any better, that's the way we decided to do it. So now we have those 5 that integrate, and they integrate well. And now it's good to go.
Cool. Do you guys have any other products coming up soon? Any ideas?
Yeah, we do. We have a couple other ideas. So the cool thing is we've also been doing some WASP projects as consultants. We have this one project that we've been working on for quite a while. That's really exciting. It's a WASP for recycling centers. So we're consulting with a third party, a guy who runs a recycling program, and we're building WASP so that we can provide websites for all of the recycling programs across the United States, for every town, every city, every jurisdiction, so they can communicate their recycling program with their customers easily. And this WASP basically is, on the back end, it's just a long gravity form with lots of different pages. It's probably close to 50 fields that this big gravity form, basically the customer goes in and fills in all this information, and then it takes that information from the gravity form and populates it on the website. So the customer doesn't have any control over the look of the website. They just have control over the content. And through this project, we've been learning a lot and creating a lot of code snippets and little mini plugins that are enabling us to do some cool things. So we're planning on maybe taking a few of those things that we've learned in that project and turning them into plugins. We're not quite at the point where we can announce what they are yet, but we do have quite a few plugin ideas that are halfway built, because we built them for this project, that we will eventually like to release, that will make things easier. For example, taking fields that you fill in on the back end and populating on the front end, making it really easy to and simple to edit content on the front end, and being able to use plugins you already have, like gravity forms or advanced custom fields, to make that easier. Lots of little things like that that we're working through and making some good solutions for.
Cool. Yep. So we are almost on the 1 hour mark. Do you have anything else you want to say, talk about, something you think we didn't cover?
No, other than the doors to the Turnkey website's blueprint course are open right now, and they'll be open until tomorrow evening. So basically tomorrow at midnight, we'll close the doors, and then we'll get started on module 1 on Thursday. So if you guys are interested in learning, the A to Z of setting up your Turnkey website platform, if you feel like you're stuck somewhere, or you just want some accountability and you want to learn from someone who's made all the mistakes in the world, then definitely jump on board. I'll let Astier put, I'll let Arindo put a link to the course, because he has his own link for that. So you can paste the link to that when you're ready, and then if you want to sign up, go for it.
Just post it. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Sure.
Yeah,
so
I'd love to see you guys inside. Otherwise, it's always fun talking to you, Arindo, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about anything WASP related.
Sure. Just to confirm and to go over that again. So the doors close on Thursday. So people have 2 days to sign up. Is that correct?
Got to think
okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So Matt is a member on the WP community group. So if you guys have any specific questions, I think you might tag him, and he'll be able to answer that. But I think that other than that, yeah, it was great having you here, man.
Yep. Pleasure to be here. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.